where you're at. I know where you're at. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, Miss Mills. Would you tell us your full name and your date of birth?
My name is Lucy Parker Mills. I was born 1926, November 13th.
Here. What do you remember about Mooresville growing up?
I remember, well, I grew up in Mooresville for about 20 years, and then we moved to Statesville, North Carolina. I was from Statesville, Clark Chapel. And so then after that, I got married in 50, and I moved to New York City, Brooklyn, New York.
What do you remember about Mooresville before you left?
I remember we...
Hey, let's stop real quick before we go. I can hear her outside talking on the phone, and I don't want her conversation to be in the audio.
While he's telling her, I lived in Brooklyn for a few years. Missed it. So what do you remember about Mooresville before leaving?
I remember that we lived on a farm.
Okay.
Over Kansas farm for, I think, in the 40s. But I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I meant to tell you that I had 2 strokes, and sometimes I have to stop and my words don't come out right, you know. But please excuse me that. If I make a mistake, I just go on. I got a pretty good memory. But we there, and we had to pick cotton. I didn't because I was sick about 12, 13 years. I didn't do anything. I stayed home. But we had to take the wagon and go about 5 miles of Shinville Road to Hocott. My brothers, I had 6 brothers, and I was the 5th child. So that's all I know about. Well, my mother, she had to wash for a lot of people and didn't get much money for it. Sometimes 50 cents for 1.5 a day. It was really hard. And I did work in Mooresville for Mr. Houston, the Rawlins Furniture Company. That's where I worked there for about 7 years until I got through. And they were really nice people. I don't have nothing to say about them. They treated me nice, you know. And then I had one job for Johnson. I haven't think about that. But I didn't work too long, you know, because meal health people, you know, they like me. They was kind of poor, you know. They had to do like that. But I knew a lot of people in Mooresville, and when I was working for Mr. Houston, I had to go down with my brother David Parker to the depot, and then I would go to the hospital and stay until 8:30. Then I'd go to work, and I stayed there, and, you know, give them bedpans or anything they needed. And I had like a little mission there. It just got so like it was a job. And they would go, oh, would you come by and do this? Go write a letter for me. And Miss Rachel, you know, Rachel Adams, she was a distant cousin of mine, and I would go there and write letters for her son, you know. And 45 years later, he came back, and I didn't know who it was, and we got to talking, and so that's just how it went. You know, he was a nice fellow. He married Grace Adams. So,
The hospital that you mentioned, was that the...
Lawrence Hospital is today they made a lot of things. They work with other people there, different doctors, and then they come and have, sometimes they have a lot of meetings there. That Lawrence Hospital, you know where it is? It's on McClellan Street.
Did you work, were you allowed to work with everyone there, or did you work on the colored wards?
No, I never worked there. I'm just saying went there. It's like a little mission. I had to go ride with my brother, and he went to work at 7 o'clock, and I didn't go to work until 8:30. And the people I worked for, they didn't get up until 8:30. Then I went to work, and I did the washing and ironing too. It's kind of rough, but they was nice people, We don't say that a lot of time, but if you're right, you're right. If you're not, it's a burden,
And where did you graduate high school, Miss Smith?
Well, I didn't,
Or you did?
because I had the sickness, and at this time, you didn't get too far. In 8th grade, Nailtown School. That's when I went to school.
Do you remember Vance Nail?
I know him very well. In fact, he's a distant cousin, his mother, so I know him well. He had, I think, 2 daughters. One of them died. There's 3. I know Barbara more than the other. So,
You were
I know the school we went to, we had to work all in the morning from 10 o'clock, excuse me. It was from 1 to 7, that's what they was, and then at 11 o'clock we would have lunch, pinto beans and cornbread. I'll never forget that. So it was a nice school, and Mr. Harrison, he was a professor from New York and Jersey, but then he moved down here. He was a good man, good doctor.
He was a professor, and he became the teacher here?
Oh, well, he's a professor. He was already teaching, but he came here, and he moved here, and then he just stayed here, and then he went back somewhere, I don't know. But I know he was a professor, Harrington. And Mr. John Ramsey, he was a teacher too. I think he sat in for some of the teachers a lot of time.
Just hold for a second.
He had that and this and all the one down about a mile down the road.
Wow.
And he worked hard, and he didn't go to school. I've heard that all my life. But he was a hard-working man. He worked, and he died in the 40s, late 40s.
Now, this is what they used to call Parkertown, right?
They call it, a Parker Town. Sometimes they didn't call that till later. Seemed like later they called Parker Town. But it is a Parker Town right now. It's just like a highway. Sometimes 3 and 4 cars come at one time, and they speed, you know, and they're not supposed to go over 35 miles, but they don't, you know.
Why did they call it Parker Town?
Well, it was Clark, and so we moved. This house has been here since, let's see, 40, about 39. This house was built, you know. And then later, after the move, they started calling it Parker Town. So that had, you know.
Because a lot of Parkers lived here, or Parkers on the land?
Yeah, my mother and dad had 10 children. And then Mr. Tommy Clark, that James Clark's father, that had the garage over there, they have some. And Will Clark, they all live right around here. And after you go over to the church, over beside the church, they have about 3 acres over there after the graveyard.
You mentioned that your mother was a domestic worker. What did your father do?
Oh, my father, he worked for Mr. Brady from a music school in Staple. You know, when he wasn't working for the other, excuse me, he worked for him, that's what he did. And he was 83 years old when he died.
You also mentioned working for Mr. Sloop at the Brawley Furniture.
No, I didn't. I just said that he owned Brawley Furniture.
He owned Brawley Furniture?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And sometimes they'd bring me home. They were nice people, you know. And they had one brother named Ralph Sloop. You know, he owned right at the hospital, that whole street that goes down Main Street. No,
McClellan?
McClellan, yeah. McClellan, that's right.
Do you feel like generally growing up here, the relationships between blacks and whites were like that of yours and Mr. Sloop, or how were the relationships in between?
Well, I know that most of them came from Georgia and different places, and they had chop cotton and get molds and do a lot of things they had to do. And then when they sell the cotton out like that, they give them 2 and they took 3. And you really couldn't make much. It really was kind of sad. But once in a while, if you knew them, they pretty nice people. But I just didn't have too hard a time.
Okay. What are some of the things that you remember doing for fun growing up?
Doing what?
For fun growing up?
Playing hopscotch and playing house, you know, build a little house and take leaves and cook them, you know, make them like we cook them, you know, and sweep the yard and things like that, and ride the bicycle. I know that, well, I was about 18 years old then. My brother had a bicycle, David, and I used to ride all the way to Mooresville until he stopped me. But it was a pretty good time.
How did you how do you feel like healthcare was back then in comparison to what it is now? I know you mentioned you didn't work there, but you were in the hospital often with your brother.
Well, it's black and white. And the black had to go in the basement. And then they had, I know Dr. Taylor, McClellan, and Painter, Sloan, and let me see, Sloan, and Dr. Henderson. He came there later. So it was kind of rough a lot of time because you had to stay in the office and wait. They wouldn't wait on you till they got ready, you know, things like that. And you had to do what they said, you know, it's rough. A lot of them was kind of, they make fun of you and things like that. But it really was kind of tough once in a while. But we didn't have it so bad. As I said, my grandfather had the property, you know, but we shared a car, and then we went to other farms, and so that was kind of hard sometimes. But it wasn't as hard as some people.
Would you have considered them your brothers sharecroppers?
Yes, they didn't work in the mill or anything. Well, David started working in the mill, I think. He had to go to the army. And they would put you in the army, a lot of people. And he had to go in the army. He stayed in the army 3 years. He was a Marine. So it's kind of rough.
I have to stop.
I know I used to run the old seminary like that.
So y'all kind of avoided the hospitals when you didn't have to go. What did you do in the
You
meantime?
didn't get to go hardly ever. I know I was in the hospital and I had my tonsils taken out in 40. And that, I was run. And the doctor come out to see you. Guy Pfeiffer, he was a black guy. And he drove the doctors around. Guy Pfeiffer, and the doctor come up here and bring a suitcase, and he maybe give you a shot or something like that once in a while. But other people didn't get much attention like they should. And some people died, just rough. It was really rough.
You mentioned that they would kind of pick at you sometimes in the hospital and whatnot. Do you remember any specific stories?
Oh, I didn't go too much, but when I just went there for the surgery, but I would go there just to be there until I went to work. That was, that's why I was there, and they would want me to, well, you come back tomorrow and bring me some flowers, or could you write a letter for me, things like that. So that was good, that I could do that.
I know.
You could push that table back a little bit.
Would that be
Maybe
helpful?
with-
No, I'm fine.
It's okay.
I just wanted to change my angle real quick. You keep riding.
What do you feel policing was like What about policing growing up?
Well, it was pretty good people. We didn't, we was in the church and all you do go to church and things like that. None of them has never been in jail so far. And I had to pick that cotton, it was rough. But a lot of them knew the people that we worked for, so they just treated us just like we like in the family. My mother was like midwife, and she'd go up there and stay with the lady of the house until they got a little, maybe 3 or 4 days. Well, she lived at this White House where you turn. She was a neighbor, and then Mom and them lived down here, so they was almost like friends. So that part didn't bother us.
Do we want to? I know that there's a black and white picture over there. Do we want to reference any of this?
Would you like to see some pictures?
I would love to know who's in that black and white picture. There.
Oh, David, that's my brother. This one.
And the one in the white frame there.
Oh, Lucy and Grady.
Who's that?
Me? See over there?
Oh, Lucy and Grady. You and your husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. So here's what we
You
did.
didn't.
Let her chill out for a second and then make her tell a story about her and her husband.
Absolutely. How did you meet?
Well, we met at church. They used to have prayer meetings from one to another. Somebody have it at their house, and next time somebody come, people come and have church in the house, prayer meeting, like that. And then his sister was going with my brother. And so they got married, and about, I'll say 8 or 9 months, I got married. So that's the way it goes there.
What church?
What church then?
Right over there.
The SCA.
Yeah, because it's 114 years old right now.
And you, what did Mr. Grady do when he lived here?
He was a tailor and presser for Jimmy Campbell. You know Jimmy Campbell. Yeah, Jimmy. He worked for him 50 years. Off and on, because he went to New York for a while, and we came back, he picked it up, and Jimmy was ready to retire.
Jimmy Campbell was a black man, or?
Oh, he's a black man, well, a nice guy.
Can you tell us about him?
Jimmy Campbell, he had a
Stop posting. Just
I can say that.
And he was, Mr. Grady was his tailor.
Yes. Presser. Presser and tailor, He'd go. That's it, traveling now. Right behind the post office.
Okay. That's not Mooresville, so. Any questions from either of you?
So when you was growing up, what was this area like? Can you describe like the houses, the roads, something like that?
Muddy roads and boy, it'd be kind of bad in the rain, and we had to go to school, It's rough to try to go to school and walk 2 or 3 miles. I remember going to school in Nailtown.
when you were you were walking, but I've heard some say that while you was walking, that the whites was being bussed.
Oh yes, they had a bus, and then sometimes they call us out of our name. Oh, there you go. They look at them there. So, yeah, I heard that too. They would do that. You know, a bunch of them get together. They call us little new. Look at them down there, and they had buses, but we had the bus that they had 2 or 3 years ago.
And what about the fair? I heard that there was only a certain, when the fair was in town, like it's this past week, that
Yes.
the blacks only had one night or one day that they.
One day, sometime they would give you Saturday, but mostly they had Tuesday night for you could go and see a show or something, but you had to pay, you know, a fee. But I don't remember how much it was. But I know they go and work up there at the fair.
When you'd ride into Mooresville on the bicycle, do you remember how people received you? Was
I just don't remember you know, there wasn't many people then. And then there's some of them wouldn't even speak to you, and I wouldn't pay no attention, because I shouldn't be riding, because I just thought my brother was riding, and right in the yard, all around there, it was a big yard. Mother would make us sweep the yard every day, and so I just started. I learned how to ride it, and then I just went down there, but I never went but one time, because I knew I shouldn't go without telling them.
Can you tell me a story from school? Like, who was you playing with? Who were some of the teachers? Things that you did when you were at Nealtown School?
Well, Miss Carrie Ramsey, she lived in Mooresville, and Sadie Hector, she was one of my folks, and they would make you stand in the corner if you talked too loud or something like that, and you stay in there 2 or 3 days, and you got to go back, you know. That's what they used to do. And sometimes we talk and whisper and things, like throw paper, you know, then we had to be punished for it.
I know back in 1935, the NAACP was chartered here in Mooresville. And I have something that's been in my spirit to ask people. In order for the NAACP to charter a chapter in the Mooresville area, something had to be going on back then. I know it was close to the end of the Great Depression. I also know that in 1935, whites received, they could start, in 1935, whites started receiving their Social Security benefits. And I know that it was over 30-some years later before blacks even started receiving their Social Security benefits, because they said that most of them was domestic workers and field hands. And so they tended to say that they didn't have the money, wasn't paying in anything to start receiving the Social Security. But what was, I know you was born after 19, you wasn't, 1935, you was, I don't know how old you would have been, but what do you see it was kind of like back then?
Well, they let us ride the bus, they might go to the back. And a lot of times they have fights on the bus too. That happened. I remember that, because I know my sister got into a little fight with one girl. She said something about it's her seat. You know, you can't claim your own seat that you don't pay. And so she was fighting about it, and she got punished for that. And we always had to go to the back, as far as I know. And then when we lived on Old Castle, that's down there down there at Gables and right there where you turn to Shinville Road, on out that was where we lived, right close there, and we had to walk, to Lockdown. And so they would tease us and call things like some of them, and some of them was all right, but they had a lot of things mishap.
Well, back when you said you left and you went to New York for a period of time.
Yes, I went to New York in '50.
So were you were probably ready to get out of here from what you was experiencing from the race relations, and I'm pretty sure you were probably ready. What did you miss about Mooresville or this area when you went to New York? Or you didn't miss anything?
I didn't miss anything, but I had a lot of things happen, with your marriage and things like that. You got to tell the truth and flame the devil. And my husband was in the army, but he came out of the army, then he didn't come back. He wanted me, something like that. Then we got back together after some years, He started, had a job and he was pretty good. But that's just what happened, because we don't have good times always. Troubles don't last always.
Well, when back then, I'm pretty sure that the houses didn't have running water, didn't have power, lanterns. What was it like back then doing that?
I'm glad you asked. And we didn't have running water. They had to carry water from that branch right down there. It's just about 2 minutes you walk down to the branch where that water to wash. And we had to, Mama had to put the clothes in the black washing pot and boil them, and she would have certain people that had her doing their clothes. I know she had one woman down at, like on the mill here, they'd bring the clothes, and she'd wash maybe all day and night. And so it was kind of rough. It really was.
Also, I know back then, I remember my grandfather, like neighbors, all of the neighbors would get together there. They raised pigs and
Yes.
hogs and cows and stuff where all of them would get together on a certain day or one morning when it's cold and kill everybody would butcher, kill hogs, they call it, and make their own liver mush, their own everything. What was, do you remember anything like that?
Well, we didn't eat pork, and I was going to say, I forgot to tell you, my daddy, he was a school teacher. So after he come out of the army, he came back to my family about to tell you. And he taught school in Taylorsville, and I guess a little bit of money, but he got about about 2 years after he came out, black people would do things like that, just like you was a little, do a little something, like a little kid, you know. But he taught school like that. I don't know whether substitute or what, but I know he went. Cause he got a picture in there on mantelpiece.
You mentioned
For a second.
Match, you know, eat on, you know, had
Oh,
some
did
fun. And I sold some of them. And when I went to New York, I took a few in the city and one of them, and then the West Indian took it up for me. And I had a lot of them, you know.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty. This little thing I just made to put on there.
That's one there.
No, the rest of them.
Straw light.
No, they
Cloth.
cloth you get. Help me out. You get
vinyl.
oh,
Weed.
plastic. You know,
Right,
you get
okay.
and get it and on the back you get a print on it, and then you. I can't think of the name of you.
I think I know about what you're talking
But I
about.
got a whole lot of them. I don't know. But this is just a thing. I did that a couple weeks like that. See?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But this one wasn't, you know, like the most of them. Because I put shave and like that and different things like that. Some of them are real pretty, and then some of them, you know, you'll get up to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
do you play piano?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay.
I done got away from it. I guess my hands got slack
Mm-hmm.
because I can't use it, but I play a little, especially if I can do hymns.
Okay.
You mentioned that your grandmother was 116 when she died in the
Yes,
60s.
Let me see. Give me that book right there.
The red one?
Yeah.
Got it.
And Carol come home. She
So she has some pictures too.
well, you want to take 5 minutes to go in the den and just look at the one out there. Do you know Rachel Stockton?
That rings a bell. I'm related to Stockton's, but
Oh yeah.
what do you remember about, as you're looking through there, what do you remember about your grandmother?
My grandmother, I stayed with, no, that was the grandmother down here, the Ramsey. But, do you know Paul Parker?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
You know Paul? I should have had him. I never want to take up your time up there. I just want to see. No, she just took all them out. See my rose there?
Yes. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you just want to go in there,
We can. I'll ask a few more questions here, and then
okay.
we'll scan it in the
Okay.
thing there. But do you remember what she did for a living?
Who?
Your grandmother. That was 116.
She just working for, what they said, they had a bad thing of saying, working for white folks. That's what they would say a lot of times. Yeah, that's true. She would, you know, work. Now my grandmother, the Ramsey, she didn't work out. She stayed at home. She was kind of sickly sometimes, and her legs wouldn't hold up, seemed like, and she stayed home and cooked. She was a really good cook and do a lot of things, make cakes and things like that.
Can you name one experience that you had with whites when you were growing up, either with one that you played with, or someone that you knew, or someone you didn't know? One experience that you can remember that really hurt you?
I really can't figure, because we was kind of tied up, you know, like I said, that lady, Laura, you anybody know Laura Smith? She lived on that, her birthday the other day. She lived in that house at that time, and my mother was living right down there where that, do you know Jerry Jones, Andy Jones?
I know some Jones.
Well, right over there, they had the White House out there. They tore that house down and built another, you know. But she would put her sweet potatoes into a pit and have sweet potatoes and white potatoes all year round. You know, they did like that. And then they go out and work for white people sometimes. You come to have me like that. But they just wasn't bad and do too bad. I don't remember having a fight with them. But they would make somebody want to make you work. So we worked.
You mentioned that your grandmother, she said she worked for white folk.
Yeah.
Do you remember any stories that she told you about working for white folks in general, or any advice or anything that she would have shared with you?
Grandma. She worked. I know my grandmother in Thorn, she worked and go work all day and then come back and say they, somebody, when the war was over or something like that, said they come by and said, we'll give you Papa's shoes. And they give her a pair of loafer shoes, said she wore them for years. That was story I know about her. But my grandmother over here, she was sickly like, but she was from Cleveland, North Carolina, like that, and she worked for a doctor. Sometimes they'd go there and clean up for them like that. That's all I know about her. And she didn't like it. And she didn't want you to, you know, say bad words and things like that. You know, you got a whipping for that. So that's all I know about that.
All right. Well, let's check out these pictures in the den and.
We almost got so we kind of hated her, and Mama said you ain't supposed to do that. And if I hear telling you fighting and going on, I'm gonna whip you.
You ready? We've talked to several people, and I've heard some of them say that back then, with our ancestors, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, they just knew their place when it came to being around white folks and what to do and how to act. And I guess they were just fearful to say
Oh yes,
things.
they know what to do.
Right.
Yes, same. Yes. And see, some of them, you know, was raped, you know, somebody in the family, you know, like that. Thurman from South Carolina, you know, he married a white. That happens all the time. and they'll come and sit at the table and eating like that, but you don't know what they're doing, you know, if you can't see everything. But it's really kind of sad. But it was rough. But I'm just saying, I just didn't have no bad time, because we stayed in certain places down there.
Amen.
Do you feel like black people knew how to act around white people, or did they act different around white people?
Yeah, some of them knew not to do, you know, they wouldn't have talk like that, you know. They know what to do. They, you know, they're gonna whip up my button if they say anything out of say, you better not be, you know, white people going by, whistling around and things like that. And they got away with that. A lot of them did, you know.
Since you brought that up, do you remember how you respond? Or I guess you may have been in New York when you found out about like Emmett Till and Martin Luther King. Were you here then?
I was here, yeah. I think that was in 40s, yeah. And Martin Luther King, and when they marched, you know, all of that time we in New York, we went to a lot of meetings, you know, but they mostly kind of knew where they stand, you know. Said, better not do so-and-so, don't you gonna get a whipping like that. And so that's all I could say. And I know they had to ride on the bus, and they had to get at the back. And a lot of times they raised an argument about that. A lot of them had a lot of time. And I guess I should tell you that my niece, she lives in Georgia. She's home now. She was born in Martin Luther. She was born in Lawrence, and they didn't have nobody, you know, being there. But I was the one that went down in the basement and helped her give chips and water, something like that. And she said, you mind the money? Oh yeah, I'll give you some. It was a pleasure because couldn't do nothing nowhere, and it wasn't that hard. I didn't work. And so Eloise, I call her the Eloise Fife, Vandenberg. She was a maid at the Lawrence Hospital, and she would go there, and so she used to speak to him a lot of times. She said, "Oh, you better not go down there." And this child was born, and she's 70 years old now, and she was born, and she said, "Eloise, I come out." She said, "You better not go down there in the hospital. You know better than that." Now she was really frightened about white people. She'd tell them, "You can't do this and you can't do that." And so I went down there, and the mother probably was still in the recovery room. I don't know for sure, but anyway, I went in there, and she was bleeding all the way in her back, and the crib was right, and I saved her life. And she tell that story, because they would not let them go in the proper place. See, soon they give birth, they'd throw you in the basement. And that's a fact, because I went there. I was there.